All right. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let's go. All right. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day. Well, let's get started here. Gonna go ahead and post that we are live. Get everybody in here. We do have CPI data coming out here very shortly, and whoa, nice little yank in the market. So let's take a look at what's going on here. Looks like they're not liking the CPI data by the looks of it here. Let's take a look. All right, came in at 8.2 year over year versus the estimated 8.1. So initial reaction here seems to be a little bit of a sell-off, and we got 8.2 versus 8.1. Holy! All right, and looks like we've smashed through that 355.80 level, which was that key level that's held for all this time, and all the charts here in the pre-market looking wacky as hell. Lovely, lovely, lovely. All right, so with that said, usually wait till around 8:35 a.m. and then we'll get things going here. Initially, very big ugly yank, losing that 355.80 here. Everything taking a doo-doo, along with Tesla, who is has dropped to 207 from 220. Amazon's gone from 114 to 109. Not a pretty sight here. Anyways, let's see here. Holy, 350 from 361 here. Very ugly yank here in the market. That is a big 2-minute candle, ladies and gentlemen. It's almost a 12-point drop on the SPY in the last 2 minutes. Anyways. All right, guys, so it's around 8:32. We get started around 8:35. We'll go over the market, some levels to take a look at. Obviously, all the levels that I mentioned this morning are getting smoked here. So we'll go over some of the levels. We'll talk about some stocks that you guys want to go over, and we'll take it from there. All right, Quinn, good morning. Oscar, good morning. Edgar, good morning. Winfred, good morning, good morning. All right, all right. Oscar, whoa, what a drop. Yeah, it was a pretty big drop. It went from almost a 3.5% drop right there. Pretty wild. 8.2 versus 8.1. I'm not really sure why it's high, but it came in as expected. So for this drastic of a yank, considering it was only a 0.1% above, not really sure what the hell's going on here, but yes, sir. All right, got about 2 more minutes, and then we'll start diving right in. Sky, good morning. Don, good morning. Good morning. All right. Mr. Foolish Snowboarder, what's going on? Good morning, good morning. All right, we got about 2 minutes here. We're gonna jump in shortly and get started. If you guys are here, make sure you go ahead and smash that like button. I would greatly appreciate it. Everyone's probably panicking on the CPI number here and wondering why all their overnights just plummeted. Yep, everything kind of yanked here, along with coin. Snow, MU, Rivian, SQ. Just computers dumped the hell out of this. Again, I think it's a little bit of an over-dramatic sell-off here. But we gotta wait and see how it pans out. We got about 1 more minute. Or no, actually about a few seconds and we'll get started here. Traveling and working in the USA. Uzbek. What is your plan today? Nice. Welcome to the channel. I don't think I've ever seen you here before. Alright guys, 25 viewers. Let's go ahead and smash those like buttons. There's only 8 likes and there's 25 of you. All you gotta do is just press the like button. Alright, so let's dive right in. Obviously, first thing we're gonna look at here is the SPY. And let's put the levels up here. So this 353 level is a pretty key level. All right, obviously we're now trading at around 350, so we're well below that. Now, why is that a key level? Because if we go back, we can see this was our last pretty much area of support. It's 353. Maybe we find some love at like 350, which we're currently sitting at right now. But under that, there's a big volume pocket here. There's really no big support until maybe right here at around 338. Okay, so if we fail to get back above that 353 level, we could see this pull right back down to around 338, 340 level. All right, simply because that was your last support. You had a strong initial move here and lots of little aggressive pushes that puts us into a little bit of a pocket on the SPY. Okay, now there is, because of this consolidation, the most average volume on these price action is sitting at around 338, 340, so that may be another area that we bounce at. So going into the closer time frames here, I'm gonna put all my levels up. This 355.83 was a pretty strong level that held multiple times. Okay, we held this level, what is this, October 11th. We held it multiple times. We held it again yesterday early morning, and it did a good job holding, right? And even in the futures trading session, it did a good job holding. And then obviously this CPI number came out and we really broke that level. And that level was really a low from the last few days' this trading session, and it snapped. It snapped. We came right back to that 350 level. So now we're gonna have to pay attention to what's gonna happen. Obviously, a lot of names gapping down. Are we going to kind of bounce back up and retest this 355 level, roll back down, or are we going to come back and, you know, really just consolidate here at around this 350 level, and then go further lower? Okay, so a few ways to kind of pay attention to this. We're really going to have to wait. Old support could become new resistance, so we could get that initial short covering move up, or you know, a little bit of an overnight gap fill now because price closed at around 356. Now we're going to open at around 350. It's about a 6-point drop or gap fill that we could try to fill overnight before rolling back over. Okay, so going to have to wait for these algorithms to do their stuff and kind of get out of the way here, and then we can really establish which direction to take. Okay, however, like I said, if we continue selling off, lose that 347 level, you really don't got much until that 338 level that we mentioned. Okay, and that 338, 340 level comes from that middle volume profile that we found over there. Okay, ultimately that 350 was that last level. We're trying to hold it here in the pre-market, lose that, lose 347, and we could really open up, which ideally, let's see, if we close that 356.50, it'll be about a 5% drop if it does get back to 338. So we'll have to see if 350 is going to hold. 347.65 is going to be the next line of defense. Under that, things could get a little bit uglier to the downside. On the upside, if we hold 350, look for the pop at 355.83 and ultimately 359 if we get back above that 355.80. Okay. Now we're going to dive into the Qs. I know the pre-market chart is not the prettiest, but it is what it is. We address things as they happen. All right, so QQQ, same thing here. It's currently trading at around 256. and that right there is the support I had drawn here from a while back. Let's go back to the bigger or further out, and you can see these levels are coming from back here. Okay, so 256 is a little bit of a level from 729.2020. We have another bit of support at 250.99 coming from 724. And then under that, it could get a little bit uglier where we open up towards that 237 area. Okay, maybe a little bit of support at 245. All right. So going back into it, currently we're sitting at around 356. Let's dive into the 15-minute time frame. And there you go. We're trying to hold that 356 level. Again, a very similar look to the SPY. Obviously, they're following each other very closely right now. First initial sell-off. Now we're kind of consolidating. We could very easily roll back down. Again, we'll have to wait till around 9:30, which is still about 45 minutes away to see what's going to happen. Okay. Again, similar look here. Same thing. Ideally, we could very well see a retest of this level, reject and come back down. Or we can consolidate here a little bit, bear flag, and then continue back down lower. We do have room to the 250.99, and then ultimately, like I said, that 245, 240 area. Okay, so we'll pay attention to these levels. 260 could be the retest level above that 263. Again, if you guys want, you're more than welcome to take a screenshot of this and save it for your reference. Some of the levels that I have, some of the levels that you guys can put on your charts, and we can take it from there. Simon, morning from Toronto. Val, good morning. Nancy, good morning. Nancy, everyone smash that like button. Yes, yes, yes. What we should buy today after 9:30 since market are down with CPI? What should we buy today? Lovely question. All right, so with that said, let's dive into the free alerts. All right, let's dive on the free alerts. Although the free alerts are going to be a little bit all over the place now with what just happened, but let's take a look. Okay, so we had DKNG 1350 calls over 1370 and 1350 calls over 1330, under 1330. So the idea here was, you know, we had a little bit of a hammer day put in. If we can get above 370, we could look for an upside move. CPI numbers obviously came out. We broke the downside trigger to 1330. Now we're sitting here at yesterday's support. Okay, so in order to trade this to the downside, I really wouldn't get involved anywhere near this. What I would do, I would wait to see how this consolidates at this 1280 level, and if market looks weak and looks like it's about to take a next leg down, then I would take that trigger under the 1280, which puts us under yesterday's pivot low, which causes everyone who dip bought this pushing it back up to here, putting in a hammer candle, which is a fairly bullish candle, is going to get buried, and they're going to try to panic sell this and get out of their position, which could cause selling pressure to the downside. And next support is really sitting at around 1175. Okay, that's what I would pay attention to. On the long side, I wouldn't worry about it unless we form some sort of a daily pattern, intraday pattern. But as far as the trigger goes, now you guys are really only available to trade this on the downside if that 1280 trigger breaks to the downside. Otherwise, there's no actual trigger for the long side unless there is some sort of a pattern or intraday technical that forms. Next one was RCL. So I'll talk you guys through why the triggers were where they were so you guys can understand for next time. Obviously, today we had Cpi data, which kind of killed everything. With big news events, sometimes triggers break or patterns totally get annihilated. Doesn't really matter what stock. You can see every stock has really just taken a big yank here. So RCL, very strong day yesterday. And on the daily, we had this push into this 45.50 level, right? We had a hammer, talked about these hammers multiple occasions, pin bars. And after that, we got a strong push. Now above this 45.50 level, we were going to get a nice move into the 47. So that was the idea on the long side on this, okay? If we can get above that 46, we have room to push to 47. Now, obviously, that broke down to the downside. Really, Not interested on anything on this on the downside. Maybe if we get back under 43, you could try it, but it's not a quality setup on this one. And I would really wait to see how market's going to react if we can get it back above to that 45 level to make a decision. Okay. PayPal. So this one again, very similar thing. We had a hammer the other day, a doji yesterday. So this one, a little bit of both ways that this could have been traded. You could have traded the doji candle trigger to the upside at 85.15 or 85.50, right, for the push into the upper side. And then the low of the day here at around 82.50, you could have taken for the downside trigger. But obviously that broke, came down. Now we're finding support at that 80.80 level. Let's take a look at the daily chart. Sorry, 80.28. And that's exactly, I think, where it bounced at today. So we're really going to have to get back under, let me get into the time frame here. Yeah, we're going to have to really get back under 80 if we're going to try to roll this back over here again, okay? I'm always very hesitant to buy puts, especially when the market has dropped drastically in the pre-market. It's got to be a good setup. It's got to be an H. It's got to be a bear pennant. It's got to be a rising wedge in order for me to get involved on them. So don't just blindly buy puts because you think CPI numbers are bad. Like I've always said, my opinion and your opinion are really irrelevant, and what we think a data says or does is not really relevant. We have to trade the price action, and we have to trade what the charts are telling us, okay? So because you or me find the CPI data high or the masses find it high doesn't necessarily mean the stock market is going to continue dying. I'm not saying this might be the case today. I'm just saying overall in general, just trade the charts, understand what technicals are being presented to you, and use that as the masses making decisions on what is going to happen next. Okay, so remember, price action is the king, and you are pretty much looking at the emotions of buyers and sellers by looking at this price action. So that's pretty much it. Unfortunately, most of these, like I said, patterns broke, so you're gonna have to wait for an intraday setup on them. But all three of these names do have range, do have room to move. So something to keep on your watch list if they do get going here. Okay. Now, as far as questions you guys have for me, go ahead, let me know. Throw it in the comment section or the chat. I'll take a look at it. Let me know if you want to day trade it, swing trade it, calls or puts. That way I can give you guys a better understanding of, or get a better understanding of what you guys want to do, and I can take it from there. AMD call. Interesting. No. So 5650 was a very key level on AMD. You can see multiple doji candles here at that 5650 level. If I show you guys this chart, and if we go back, this little congestion area, this little 5920 to 5654 was a pretty good area of support. Now we're under that 5650. This thing could come back down to 52 at this point. Okay, so there's still lots of selling pressure here. For you to take calls, you're gonna have to want the stock to at least push back into this 5650, consolidate here, and then maybe if you identify a pattern, you could trade this to the upside, or you can wait for the retest here, breakout, and then when that happens, you can take the trigger right here on the retest of that 5650 level, right? You have to understand that now the stock is under a big key level of resistance. This was support, and if we zoom out, if you go to the 5-day, 15-minute, take a look at how many times this area held, right? And now we broke under it. So old support becomes new resistance. So since price broke through that floor, now your overhead's going to be 5650. So if price action pops up to right here, it could very easily reject and roll back down. Okay? So you don't want to just buy calls blindly. you have to wait for it, like I said, at least this level of consolidation to take place to show you that buyers are continuously stepping up. And then if you have a flat top, if you have a bullish pattern, you can take the calls on top of that level to push you through the resistance. But otherwise, you'd have to wait. You really have to wait and see what happens at the 56.50 before you take calls or you try to trade calls on it. Should you swing trade in a bear market? Yes, of course you could swing trade in a bear market. There's always a sector that's going to be outperforming. There's always going to be a sector that's going to be moving to the upside. There's always, bear ETFs. There's, you can even swing trade to the downside. You can buy puts and watch stocks go down, and you can make money as the stocks are going down. You can swing trade in any market, really. It's just a matter of finding the right setup and what works with your system. MU day trade put below 50.34. Let's take a look at MU. So 50.33 is that low from the prior day. I can see it already, right there. Now let's take a look at the daily. 50.30. Okay, that's that prior day low. You had an inside day triggered. Obviously now we're sitting at around this 50.80 level. Yeah, you could try it. You could try it under the 50.30. My only issue with it is, one, you have a psychological 50, the whole number 50 that might get in the way. Other than that, that's really the only thing that could prevent this thing from falling. Also, other than that, it's very extended to the downside. But what is neat about this is that the stock has bounced from the 50.30, kind of pushing up, might be putting in a little bit of an H. So you have that sell-off here, right? You bounced, now you're coming up. If this rolls back over and comes back down to penetrate that H could be your level to get involved in, and you break old support, which could push you back down to at least the 50, and then you have to see what happens at the 50. If the psychological number breaks, then it does open up to at least 49, 48, 40 on this one. So not a bad idea. Keep an eye on that 50-30 level if it breaks, and most importantly, if it breaks with volume is what you want to pay attention to. So let's say we open up here, price comes down. All right, what you want to see happening here is if price is kind of consolidating, right? This is the volume bars, and then this candle really breaks down. You want to see that spike in volume, right? You need to see that spike in volume to confirm that the support is broken on increased volume, and then you can kind of take the trade, okay? And you always want the increased volume to be above the average volume for the trading day. How do you use fib retracement lines to trade? You could use fib retracement lines in many different ways. I use them to come up with targets on the daily. Another way you can trade them is, for example, on this day on MU, we have a price action that opens up. Okay, we have a low and we have a high. So oftentimes what people would do, they would take the high, take the pivot high and the pivot low, right? Now you have an area, because price is moving upwards, you can establish where this is going to start seeing some resistance. Okay, again, not my biggest thing that I use intraday, but a lot of people do use it for day trading. I personally don't use it for day trading because I have enough levels, whether it's a support resistance level, whether it's a pivot point, I have enough levels to give me areas of targets that I can use. If the stock was at all-time highs or at all-time lows and there was no other levels to use, then possibly I would use Fibonacci's to try to establish, whether we're going higher or lower. But other than that, I wouldn't really try to use Fibonacci's for an intraday trading activity. So let's try it here as well, see what it gives us. Again, not really valid for me. If it's telling me 161.80 based on today's price action, doesn't really hold. My lines are doing a better job holding than the Fibonacci lines. So again, like I said, I only use fibs at areas of all-time highs and all-time lows because there's no other levels. Otherwise, I have enough levels to let me know where price action is going to go to. Pfizer over 42.27. So it's funny actually, mRNA and NVAX I think took a yank too on this news. Pfizer long over 42.27. No, I don't really see a setup there. I don't really see a setup there. Yesterday's candle wasn't pretty. Let me see. Popped up. Yes, it popped up today. I guess did it have some news? I'm not sure what made this move today. Booster provides better. Anyways, 42.27 or 42. Yeah, you're seeing calls, right? 42.27 for calls. I wouldn't do that. You have too much intraday resistance. You have resistance right here. You have resistance right here. You know, there's too much pivot highs that'll get in the way. And for a stock like Pfizer, who barely moves, you know, for you to try to get involved into a trade and make like 0.3% of a move, it's not going to be very valid. Go back on daily. Let's see, inverted hammer 42. Yeah, I rather you trade that. You have a pretty aggressive selling candle here with a big wick at the top, and it just happens that this news kind of pushed it back down. So if we can get back under that 41.90, then you could try to take this for a pullback down towards that 41.80 or maybe even the 41.40 level. On that setup. Again, because of these big drastic sell-offs, you really have to be careful. This does look better on the downside than the upside, because remember, you have everyone who bought here is now either flat or break even. Then you have people who kind of push this into pre-market who are buried again. So any pops, you might start seeing some sell-offs again. So ideally, another thing that you can look for is if we kind of push up into here as a rising wedge, and then you can take that trigger down to the downside into this resistance area of around 42.50. Are you leaning more towards puts for the day or call? I don't lean towards anything really. I look at things pre-market and I establish triggers, and then once those triggers come, I go. But currently, a lot of the triggers that I had have kind of broken down, so I have to wait and see what the market's going to give me. Probably focus more on the downside triggers to see if there's any downside triggers that are going to break. But again, you have to be really cautious because we've dropped already about 10 to 12 points in the market in the pre-market. As we move down to lower levels that can't appear on intraday charts, how would you recommend getting used to charting on the daily? Lisa, I'm not sure what you mean by that. I mean, I start charting always from the daily. I never start from the intraday. So when I'm looking at my stocks at nighttime, which is, I go through 30, 40 pages of stocks every night. That's why every stock I pull up, it's got lines on it, and I always have levels. That's simply because every night that I look at charts, I'm always drawing some sort of levels, and my levels are always coming from the daily. I always start from the daily. So obviously, just to kind of run through support and resistance really quickly, I'll turn AMD back up here. Alright, so this little gray box, you can see it's an area of support. Why? Because you have price that bounces, right? That's an area of support. You can see this area as resistance. Why? Because we get price action selling off every time it hits it. Same thing with up here. It's another area of resistance. When resistance breaks to the upside, old resistance becomes new support, and so forth. So I always start my levels from the daily, and then when I'm looking to trade them and I come in to the 5-10 minute time frame, then I look at the day before and establish what the pivots are that I can get used to and kind of take it from there. Okay, but I never start from the intraday and go upwards. You always have to start from the bigger time frame and go downwards. Thanks for the Thursday lives videos, more educational than anything. Keep it up, no worries. Oscar, thank you. Perfect. All right, guys, if you guys are still here, go ahead and smash that like button. Remember, we do this every Thursday live at 8:30 a.m. So we'll see how the day pans out. I got to get ready and get back into the room to trade today's lovely price action of the CPI data out here today. But we'll catch you guys all right back here next Thursday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. If you guys have questions that I did miss, go ahead, shoot me a message on Discord or Twitter, and I'll be able to help you guys out. All right, guys, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next week. Take care, guys.